What's up, everybody? Buying and selling a home can be really stressful. And one of the most stressful parts of it is the home inspection. In fact, most deals fall apart because of a bad inspection. So today, I'm gonna go through my inspection checklist for sellers so you can get in front of some of the pitfalls and avoid a bad inspection. I've been selling residential real estate for over 20 years, so this list comes from my experience. This is not gonna be one of those big money repair replace lists, but instead, I'm gonna tell you things that you can do easily that I know inspectors focus on and buyers are afraid of. And I'll point out some of those hot button items so you'll know what to focus on. And if you're a buyer or a potential buyer watching this video, this list will definitely give you insight into what inspectors look at and whether they're a big deal or not. So we're gonna go through my top 10 in no particular order. Let's dive right in. Let's start with an easy one that you may think seems obvious, but I promise you, every time I find this. And that has to do with your lights. Go through your house and make sure every light works. And if it doesn't, change the bulbs. And while you're at it, get all the same color throughout your house and make sure they're LED. It'll just make the house look a lot nicer with the consistency. Okay, on to number 2. This is a bigger deal. This has to do with your HVAC, your heating, your air conditioning. Whether it's summer or winter, this applies to you. Before you go on the market, make sure you get your HVAC system professionally serviced. I'm telling you, this could be a big ticket item, and when that inspector sees that tag with the date on it that was just recently inspected and serviced, they will feel a lot better, and so will the buyers. Make sure you change the filters, no dirty filters anywhere near the furnace, and if your furnace has a furnace humidifier attached onto it, I got something to tell you. This is one of those hot button items. Those things, honestly, hardly ever work. So you may have one and think it's working, and maybe it is, and maybe it's not, but if you're not sure, open it up, look at the filter, because when they're not working, they can get a lot of mold. And I know that's a 4-letter word, and it really terrifies buyers. So if you had your furnace serviced recently, and they say this furnace humidifier works perfectly, it's clean, the filter is good, you're good to go. But if not, or even if you're not sure, open it up, take that filter out, throw it away, clean that furnace humidifier out, unplug it, and then sell it as is. I would much rather you do that than have an inspector come, open it up, because they will, it's one of those hot buttons, see mold on it, and then they have to put that in their report. It's a big tip. Make sure you pay attention to it. So the next two both have to do with the exterior of your house, because this is part of the inspection and it can turn into a big deal. First, I want to talk about your gutters. Make sure your gutters are clean. By the way, your gutters should always be clean, not just when you're selling your house, because this is the biggest reason why water gets in people's homes. It's from clogged gutters. So this is an all-around maintenance item, but especially before you put your house on the market, make sure your gutters are clean. Next, let's talk about the landscaping. Once again, one of the main reasons water gets in people's homes has to do with your grading. So make sure your grading is always sloping away from your home. And also trees, no trees should ever be touching your house. So if you have some nice, beautiful trees in front, but they seem to be touching your home, trim them back. Nothing touches the house. The gutters are clean. The grading is going away. First of all, this will always help in your home and keep water away. And second of all, an inspector will love you. Okay, moving on to termites. Now, depending on where you live in the country, there's a million different types of termites. Termites could be a big deal or they couldn't be. Where I am here in Maryland, right outside of DC, termites are not a big deal, but they are usually part of the home inspection because a lot of times lenders require them. So, like I said, where I am, the termite inspection is super cheap. You can get one for under $50. And usually if you need remediation, the treatment isn't that big a deal. If there's some wood rot, it may cost you a little more to get that fixed, but it's better to get in front of it than to have to deal with it later. Where I used to live in California, termites was a huge deal and houses had to be tented sometimes to get rid of those termites. So depending on where you live, check with your local realtor to see if termites are a big deal or not is what you should do. But my advice is get that termite inspection before you put your home on the market so you know that you're in the free and clear when they do it during the inspection period. So this next one is another one of our hot button items because it could be really expensive to repair or replace. And at the time of the inspection, you're not gonna know and the buyer's not gonna know. So it could really scare them. And that has to do with your windows. Before you put your house on the market, go around your house and make sure all the windows open and that they stick. They don't just open and fall down. Because the inspector is gonna open all the windows or they're gonna try. And if they can't open them, and maybe they're just painted shut and need just a little putty, but they're not gonna know that at the time because they're not gonna force it because they may break it. They're just gonna know it in the inspection and the buyer's gonna think, oh my gosh, I have to replace all these windows. And that can be really really, really expensive. So to avoid this, before you put your house on the market, go around your house, make sure all the windows can open, that they're not painted shut. And if they are stuck, definitely get someone in there that can open them for you, because it's probably not a big deal. But you need to know this before the inspection, and make sure that they're all in working order. Now, if you have a home that's built before 1979, this could be even more expensive, because then you're dealing with the possibility of lead-based paint. And so if a buyer needs to replace all these windows that are older than 1979, they actually have to get a lead-based paint specialist to replace these windows. And then you're talking a lot of money. So do yourself a favor, go around the house, make sure all the windows open before you put your house on the market. And by the way, if you are getting some value out of today's video, and I really hope you are, because that's why I'm doing this, to help you guys out, definitely consider subscribing to our channel and liking this video, and maybe even commenting below. It just motivates us to make more videos, and I do appreciate it. Now, on to the next one. This one I don't necessarily call a hot button item because it's not that big a deal, but it will always come up because it's got a big tag on it that says need replacement every 5 years. And that is your backflow valve. If you haven't replaced that ever since you bought the house, and it's been more than 5 years, you should probably do that. And it can cost a couple $1,000s to do it, because you need a special plumber to get in there and do that. Just know, it doesn't mean that something's wrong with your house, but it has a big tag on it that says you have to do it every 5 years, and the inspector will point it out. Buyers, they're not gonna know the difference. They're gonna say the inspector said to do it, so you gotta do it. So you might as well get in front of it. Okay, for this next one, I wanna be really super clear. I am not asking you to hide anything, okay? So there's two parts to this. The first part is, I want you to walk around your house. I want you to look at all the ceilings, especially in the bathrooms, the kitchen, any place where there might have been some humidity. And if there's any water stains or any stains of any kind, make sure you clean them up, because when a buyer walks in the house with the inspector and they see a water stain, might have been there for 10 years, might have been there when you bought the house, but they're not gonna know that. And it will be alarming to them. They're gonna ask questions, and you may not have time to answer their questions before they bail on the house. Now let's get to the second part. If you did have a leak and that's why there's a stain, you need to disclose this. You had a leak, you fixed it, you disclose it. You show them a receipt, you tell them what you did. And you still clean it up. You don't leave the water stain. But you always have to disclose, because let me tell you something. Neighbors talk, so if it was a big deal, they're gonna talk and they're gonna tell those new buyers. And also, maybe you did an insurance claim. And when those buyers go to get insurance for the house they just bought, your house, it's gonna come up. And if you didn't disclose it, it could cause you a lot of problems. I want you to get through this inspection seamlessly, but I also want to get you to settlement and move on to your next house without looking back in any problems. So always disclose and just explain what you did to repair, but then always clean it up after, so there's no water stains glaring at these buyers and the inspector as they go through your house. All right, stick with me, we only have a couple more. So the second one has to do with your grout. Grout is such an easy fix, but when a buyer and inspectors are going through the house and the grout in the bathtub or in the shower or in the floors is all cracked or missing, it sets off a red flag. The inspector starts to wonder what else hasn't been repaired or maintained, and the buyer starts to wonder as well. And it's such an easy thing to do that there's no reason this should ever come up in an inspection. So go around your house again, look at any type of seal, whether it's the floor or the shower wall or the bathtub, and get a handyman in there. Probably shouldn't do it yourself unless you're handy, and get all that grout fixed, get it looking nice and clean, and avoid that red flag during the inspection. And finally, let's talk about radon. Radon is a natural gas that comes from the ground and can cause cancer. So it's a scary word, radon. And depending on where you live in the country, some places have more radon than others. Where I am here in Maryland, right outside of DC, we have a lot of radon. So it's kind of a big deal around here. Per the EPA, the levels of radon should be under 4.0, just so you know. So here's the deal with radon. It's probably not gonna be part of your general inspection because a radon test takes at least 48 hours. The test cans have to sit there in the basement, the lowest part of the house, for 48 hours before you can get a proper reading. But it will come up usually during the transaction. Here in Montgomery County, Maryland, sellers actually have to provide radon results by settlement if the buyer doesn't do the test. But here's the thing, although radon can be a scary word, it's super easy to remediate, and it's not that expensive. So if you're already living in the house and you never did a radon test, go ahead and do one. You can get one from Home Depot, or you can get a radon inspector in there. Probably cost you about $150, and they'll do it professionally and get you the results. And if the levels are over 4.0, get it remediated. It's basically goes like this. They take a pipe, they stick it in the ground, the pipe comes up through your house, usually through your utility room, and somehow exits the house. And if you need an extra boost for it, they put a fan on it in the outside, sucks the radon gas up, takes it out of the house. It's not that expensive. expensive. I would say between $1,100 and $1,500 for one system. Your house is huge, you might need two, but it's something that you should get in front of. First of all, if you're living in the house, you want those levels low. And also, then you can say to the buyer, we've already done this. We have a system or we didn't need one. Here are the results. So there you have it, my top 10 hot button inspection items that you can easily get in front of before you put your house on the market, and definitely before the buyer of your house does their home inspection. And if you do live in the area, in the DMV, in DC, Maryland, or Virginia, and you'd like us to come by and check out your house, and maybe walk around with you and point out some things that I think you should do, just send us an email. Happy to come over and take a look. And if you're thinking about moving to the DMV and you'd like our help, also send us an email. We'll set up a Zoom. We'll get you started. And if you missed our video on the top 10 things you should remove from your house before you put it on the market, definitely check that out next. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Bye.